Hello. Hi, good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's tutorial session on urban services planning. So let's get started. We have had a preliminary discussion last week about the module one, which we discussed last week. So this week, similar to our discussions last week, we will be doing about week two's content material, which I'm assuming the assignment submission is by 7th, I think. One sec. Sorry, not keeping quite well. Um, People are just pouring in, but I think we will slowly start and others can join. So today I'll be able to see whether people are requesting, so it's fine. So let's get started. So I hope my screen's also visible and the first question is visible now. Yes, okay. Thank you for that confirmation. So, excuse me. First question goes, what is the usual design life in years of capital intensive infrastructure projects? Option A 5, option B 10, option C 30, option D 20. Yes, so Shal says it's 30. Very good. Yeah, it is 30. So we have discussed, so this is a recap of whatever we discussed in our week one lecture. So our week two lecture series also starts with this recap about capital intensive projects and labor intensive projects. So just to give an overview, we discussed that labor intensive projects will have a lesser design period because it can frequently be more improved based on the feedback received from the project or from the beneficiaries of the project, whereas capital intensive projects involves a lot of initial investment which cannot be modified, so the design period or the design life of these projects are much higher. So as per our normal urban planning guidelines, capital intensive infrastructure projects are usually given about 30 years of design life. Right. So let's go on to the next question. Problem two. The image given below is a representative of which population forecasting method? Ratio method, cohort survival method, employment method, and D, migration and natural increase method. B, B, B. Yes, everybody says B. Okay. So let's discuss all these methods very briefly. So we have first one, ratio method. So as I said, let's make this more interactive. So if you can keep your videos open on, that's the best thing. So for this, can I have some opinion on from the group on what is ratio method? How do we forecast population using ratio method? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Cohort survival method, because some of you had mentioned that that's the answer for this question. So, uh, can anybody actually the ratio method is the method I could not understand well. Okay, fine. Then taking across the values and ratio is derived. Okay. So a ratio method, do I have a space? Yeah. So a ratio, so we have, let's go option. So first one is ratio method. So what ratio method says that if a region is growing, the so I have a large region, which is my region A. And now so at a particular year T, this region is of this is the growth in this region. Or let's say we are talking about population. So the population in this region A is fixed. Now, at a time T dash, now, so I'm just denoting it this way to show that population is grown in that region. And let's imagine that this growth is at X. The rate of growth is X. So it's growing and there's a rate of growth and that's X. Now, if I take a small sub-region over here, so we are assuming that this ratio, so with from time T dash to T, the rate of growth was X. So if I take a small sub-region, then the rate of growth in this sub-region will also be of this X ratio. So it's the same ratio in which the rate grows. So that is kept constant. So based on this, we will be able to predict what will be the growth in a small sub-region. So that's ratio method. Now, what was the next option we had? Yeah, let's come to cohort survival last because that's the answer. Then we have employment method. So what is employment? Yes, ratio method. I think somebody has answered in the chat box. Uh, Ratio method is for economic method only and smaller area. Yes. So we assume a homogeneous region. Yeah. So the rate of, so it's not homogeneous again because there's a growth which is happening, right? So based on that growth, the ratio in, because this growth can be triggered by different economic factors. So we are assuming that the same economic stimuli which was there in this whole region is affecting this small region also. So there is a stimuli. So over the years, so for instance, if T dash this is happening, if we have T dash dash, which is another year, it need not be the same. So it's not a continuous, at least in terms of homogeneous, at least in terms of population growth rate. At least, yes, homogeneous in terms of population growth, but there can be external factors like economic factors which are affecting this. So whatever, so our assumption is that whatever factors was affecting a larger region, so in a smaller region also, that the same factors are being affected. Right. So yeah, so okay. So it would be good if you can speak out because then it's easier to understand. But if you have other issues, you can put in the chat box also because then others can also be part of the discussion when you're speaking it out. Okay, so that was ratio method, and then our second one is employment method. Yeah. So our employment method. So let's talk about employment. Yeah. So employment method. The main assumption here is that you're looking at the so you're assuming that when there are more employment opportunities there would be more population coming in and people would be sorry, let me just add someone in. Yeah. So because of this employment opportunity, more people would come and settle in a region, and because of this, the place will also grow. So as discussed, so these employment method, then we have all the other one, migration and natural increase method. So all these are economic models. They're not mathematical, purely mathematical models such as arithmetic progression method, geometric progression method, and we also had incremental increase method. So those were different arithmetic methods. And now whatever we are discussing here are economic methods. So this is economic methods are more realistic because it's related to a region and based on certain factors affecting a region, we are looking at how the region is growing. So in employment method, the formula that we use is that we have E by W into W by P is equal to E by P. Employment requires activity ratio with working age. Yes, very good. Employment requires activity ratio. So that is what this is essentially does. So this mainly shows the ratio of active people. So this is the activity rate which is there, where E is nothing but the active person or an active in the sense an economically active person, somebody who's working. So an economically active person. And W is all the people who are in the working age group. So they are in the working age group. And this one are yeah, so W is a work, and this P is a population, the total population that we are interested to find out. So this formula gives us, so if you take the activity rate by the number of people who are working in the total, so this gives us the working population rate because this is the sorry, working age group. So what is the population of people who belonging to that working age group? And the other one, the first one gives us the activity rate, that is how many people are active in the working age group. So that ratio into the working the ratio of the people in the working age group will give us the total will give E by P, and from this, so we can solve this and then we can find out what P is, because these if you know these two ratios, we can solve this and then we can find P. So this is the employment method. Then we also have, so the third type is the natural increase and migration method. So we have natural increase and migration method. So what this says is that, so you take a sum, so number of people who are being born in a region, minus the number of people who, minus the number of deaths in a region, plus the number of people who are coming from outside. So there's so if you consider a region, so there's some things which are being generated over here, or some things which are happening within the region, and some things are going out of the region, for instance, births and death. Then there are other things which are coming from external regions. So this is in migration. And then there are some people who are moving out, which is out migration. So this natural increase and migration model gives us that for a time period. So let me just draw it here. For a time period t plus n, like for a later time periods, we take is equal to, at this time period, what is the population, or let's say what is the difference in growth. That's easier. Let me take this. Whatever difference in, or what is the rate in which it's growing, would be number of births minus number of deaths plus in migration minus out migration. So these two we are separating, the external factors and then the internal factors. So these are three different methods. Now the question over here was about the image which was given, which was cohort. So we said this is cohort survival method. Now all these denote what is the population in terms of different age groups. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, it's mainly talking about different age groups. So age one, the group one would be people from 4 to 4 years of age, and group two are people from 5 to 10 years of age. So these are different age groups. So the advantage of, so by cohort we mean that people are grouped based on their cohort groups, or based on different age groups, the population is divided. Now, the advantage of this is that we know that the fertility rate or the mortality rate of different people in different age groups differ. So, based on this, we can divide the population, and so this gives a more accurate uh, projection on the population, because based on age groups, we are allocating their the the number of, we are predicting the number of births and number of deaths more accurately by using this method. Now, why this has a curve like this is because we know that as age progresses, the number of people in that particular age group would differ. So that's why this figure itself, you just by looking at the figure, we are able to recognize that this is the cohort survival method. Now, is there software for this method, like how we get bar charts from Excel? Okay, so about softwares which are used, I am not aware, I do not know whether there are advanced softwares these days. So what we usually do is we calculate in Excel only. It's not a very difficult calculation in Excel. So I'll just show, someone wants to join the call. Right, yeah. So I'll just show you an example. So, sorry, did I just go back? Yeah. So this is one example of cohort survival method. So for instance, so let's just, so this is not a software, this is just a spreadsheet, and based on the spreadsheet, we can calculate. So that everybody can understand. So on this side, we have all the age groups written, 0 to 4, 5 to 9. So let's say these are different age groups, which I was discussing before. And now this is the existing ratios or existing population metrics that we have. So we've done some survey and then collected how many people are present right now, and we're splitting up into male and female for different age groups. So this also helps in understanding the ratio of population and better projecting it, whereas the other methods which we discussed before, they're not separating based on age groups or based on gender. So after getting this data, so we have the total number of people, then we are calculating what is the birth, or how many people will be, like how many people are going to be born. So this again, we are calculating it by taking a ratio, which is the age specific birth rate, which is the number of births per thousand female for a particular age group. So this is a ratio which is again derived based on existing data. We calculate based on a given year, we calculate what has been the ABSR, or the active birth age specific birth rate, which has been there, and we allocate it for each age specific birth rate. So we know that from age 15 to 45, like about at least till 45 is when the birth rate is active, like so we get the ratio over here, whereas the other ages, it's not there, like it won't be there. So from this, so this is the birth rate that we have over here. So if we multiply this birth rate, we would be getting the number of total births that we have. Multiply the birth rate with the existing population, we'll get the number of births. So we are assuming that this is the number of births. So then we calculate the total number of births. So we have that value over here, which is the total number of births. We leave it over here. Now the second, so this was first factor, which was the birth. Now we have the second factor, which is the mortality rate. So now mortality rates also we take from our existing data and we apply. So again, we know for a very young child, the mortality rate, so we can observe it's very high for a young child, and then again it is low in the growing age, and then it again increases when in as age increases. So based on this, we are again calculating the number of people who would die in male and female separately. Okay, there is a doubt. So do we get separate cohort charts for variables like male, female, birth and death, or is it a synchronized in one chart? Okay, so we will come to that. Let me just explain this process, and then probably you yourself would be able to answer this question. So this is the rate that we have based on the mortality rate. We'll calculate the number of deaths that would be happening for each age specific groups. So again, the highlight is for each age, for each gender, we have a different number of people who would be dying in that in the next few years. So this we are projecting it for next 5 years. Like we are saying for the next 5 years, what would be the projection is what we are taking. So if that is the case, we can now calculate what would be the remaining population, because birth minus death we can calculate. So from the population that we had before, so here nobody is being born. Some people are dying in this particular age. So we have the total number of people who would be there after 5 years. So based on this, we're calculating all the values. Now, what happens is we're taking it's another 5 years is passed, right? So which means people who were belonging to the age of 0 to 4 will now fall under the category of 5 to 9, because after 5 years they are growing. So that value which was there over here would be inputted into this value, which is 0 to 5 years. So after 5 years, this is the population. So similarly, we can derive all the values for the projected age groups for the next 5 years. Now, what happens to 0 to 4? 0 to 4, we take this value, the total number of births. So that's why we calculated the total number of births. This value goes in over here, and this ratio is again based on the existing population, female to male ratio that we have. So based on that ratio, we would be putting it over here. Or if we have the actual rate on, if you don't have the actual rate, if you have the actual rate on the number of female births and male births separately, then the projection becomes more accurate. So that is input over here, and then we get this. So now this value that we are getting, that becomes a projected population for the next 5 years. So let's come back to this graph. So this graph mainly talks about the projected so this is this so in one side we have the male and female, and on the other side we have the projected population. So here it's shown separately. It can be shown it's shown as a single line. It's not separating male and female. It can be shown as separate lines also. So to answer the question, it is one single chart, because you're synchron eventually you're calculating the whole thing and you're getting one single chart which shows what is the projected population. You do not have to take multiple charts. But to do this calculation, you have a spreadsheet like this where you're separately calculating each based on each gender, based on different age groups. You're separately calculating the births and deaths, and then you're adding it up over here. Right. Any doubts in this cohort survival method? Okay, so I'm assuming there are no doubts. So let's proceed on to the next question. I hope I've answered your question, Shal. Why, Yala? Yes, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, so we are proceeding on to the next question, which is problem 3. What is the population benchmark for medical college in an area? Option A, 1 lakh. Option B, 5 lakhs. Option C, 10 lakhs. And option D, 15 lakhs. Yes. Any guesses? Okay, so option C, 10 lakhs. Okay. So yes, so it is 10 lakhs. So we have seen this UR DPFI guidelines. This we discussed. So this slide is directly from our lecture. So as per UR DPFI guidelines, we have different standards. So for a college, a medical college, we say that the population served is again 10 lakhs. So just to remind, now these guidelines are not standards, or they're not hard and fast rules. So based on certain economic conditions or based on certain other contributing factors, this can vary. That is, even if a 10 lakh population is not there in that region, but there's no college there in the nearby vicinity, a medical college can still be established in that region. So these are just certain guidelines to give a rough idea about what should be the spread of each facility, or where should different facilities be placed, or who will a facility cater to, etc. So there's a doubt over here. Is it possible to explain the rationale behind these? So yes, so the rationale is very simple. These have been formulated based on certain feedback surveys and understanding. So a lot of participatory surveys have been done in order to do this, and understanding what is the requirement of the place, these have been formulated. So and we've discussed there are multiple levels of organizations involved in this deciding of these standards, starting from the getting the opinion from the local people to decision making bodies. There have been several layers which these guidelines have gone through, and finally they've put it up, formulate density and facility required for the population. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. So it is based on certain requirement of the place. These guidelines have been formulated, but again, the municipal council or the local body has the authority to change these. So the guidelines are flexible based on the requirement of the place. And also, so this, when it comes to colleges, even private investors or other investing agencies can also come and invest on that. So yeah, so these are again, so the guideline which gives over here is the population which is say served, the minimum student strength which is supposed to be there. So these are there as a monetary guidelines, but these can be these can be, or these are very flexible. It's not hard and fast rules which needs to be followed. Okay, any doubts on this? Right. Let's proceed on to the next question. Problem 4. Which of the following statements correctly defines utility-based rule for location choice? Option A, each alternative is given a scalar value based on the different attribute vectors characterizing each alternative, and a rational individual selects the option with the highest value. Option B, ranks are given to the alternatives and decision maker decides on any of these alternatives. Option C, level of satisfaction of the decision maker with a particular alternative is considered. Option D, one alternative is better when at least one attribute is better than all other. So, what is okay, let's first see what is a location choice. Like, what are we talking about when we're talking about location choice? Okay, someone says option A, someone says option D. Fine, let's come to that. So first, a location choice is, again, you're deciding to put a facility at a particular location. So you're, as simple as that, it's a location choice. Now, a location choice problem is usually considered to be a discrete choice problem. So why is it a discrete choice? Is because you have a set of alternatives, discrete alternatives with a set of parameters in that, and a person can choose only one alternative from it, which means it's a discrete choice which a person has to make, where it's not there are other choice problems where people can alter the alternate attributes in that. For instance, I want this attribute. You have so many attributes like uh, the investment required, or for instance the facilities which are required. So let's say you're putting up a college, so you have different attributes, the quality of facilities that can be provided. You need, let's say, 10 rooms, and then you need around 1 crore to be invested for this facility. But the other alternative that you can have probably would be just have 5 rooms and then reduce this to probably less than a crore. So you can tweak the different attributes and then you can come up with a final choice. But in location choice, each location itself gives a set of attributes, so there's no possibility of tweaking them. It's a discrete choice. You have certain attributes and those attributes are fixed, so now you need to select from those. So that's a location choice problem. Now, what is utility based rule is the question. So yes, different alternatives are given for that, but before that, in general, what is a utility based rule? So a utility based rule mainly says that, so it comes from a neoclassical theory which says that people tend to choose something which is of higher utility. Now, this is so this sorry, I went to the answer. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So utility based rule, it's not just for a location choice problem, but for any other choice problems utility based rules are used, where it says that we all people always tend to maximize the utility, and the option which has the maximum utility is chosen. So that's what is asked. So here they've asked, if you're using a utility based rule for a location choice problem, what would be the definition of that? Now let's come to the option. So we have the first one where each alternative is given a scalar value based on different attribute vectors characterizing each alternative, and a rational individual selects the option with the highest value. Does this sound familiar to utility based rule? Like, is it possible? Yes, no? So as we are discussing, there are different attributes, and for each attribute, a scalar value is given. So for instance, your priority on, so again, so the idea is you have a utility based rule, which means you need to maximize a utility. So the utility of each attribute which is there, as I was saying, these attributes individually cannot be improved or cannot be compromised. It's a discrete choice. So in this discrete choice that we have, each attribute is given a value by a utility value. Now, based on this utility value, an individual selects the option with the highest utility value. So, option A is the right answer for this question based on utility based rule for location choice. Now, let's look at other options also. We have option B, which says ranks are given to each alternative and the decision maker decides on any of these alternatives. So, you're not looking at each attribute, you're not looking at the utility of these attributes, but you're just the giving ranks. So what does this fall under if you give ranks to certain alternatives? The scalar value is a measure of the utility of the corresponding attribute. After that, whether it's ranked or not is the planner's choice. Yes, correct. Yes, the scalar value. We are mainly talking about the scalar value. So over here, we are in the utility based rule, we just take the one with the highest utility. That's it. Now here, the second one, B, we are talking about ranks for each alternative decision. So what does that come under? Remember anything from the lectures which we learned? Okay, so if we have a rank-based one, it's a lexicographical rule that we have. So it's named that way. So by definition, in a lexicographical rule, we give ranks to each alternative. So you're not looking at the utility or anything, but overall you look at everything, and then based on the decision of the of an individual, you give ranks, and then you take the ranks from multiple people. So yeah, so that's option B. Now we have option C, which is level of satisfaction of a decision maker with a particular alternative is considered. So anybody remember? Can someone recollect what this falls under? The level of satisfaction. So it's called a satisfactory choice, like a choice based on satisfaction. So it's a satisfaction choice. So which means that, let's say for example, you wanna buy a house, and the house. So you're not looking at any other factor, but the house is located uh, to a school. So you're thinking that your kids can go to the school nearby. So there's a level of satisfaction of taking that. So all the other utility parameters which are there is not there. So I mean, yeah, this mainly comes under but again, you're satisfied with that. It's not a very dominating factor, but you're satisfied with all the other facilities which are there. So there's a level of satisfaction over there. Now the other one is one alternative is better, at least with one attribute better than others. So this is called dominance. And yeah, so in this example, the other example which I was giving, the school where, for instance, this one, the location choice of a school, which is, sorry, location choice of your house is dependent on the proximity of a school nearby. So this attribute is dominating over there, or the land prices in that region is dominating. So this can be a dominating choice. Satisfaction again depends upon the overall level of satisfaction that a person has in choosing that. So it's a very subjective decision, satisfaction. For instance, person A might find a locality might be satisfied with something, but a person B might not be satisfied. So that's a difference. So in utility based, again, there are multiple attributes. So you're rationally analyzing all the attributes and then making a choice. So these are the ones which we discussed. So I've already explained them. Just put this here for notes. Yeah. So is there any doubts on this? Did we study satisfactory method and method? I'm not. Yes, we did. It's there in the lecture, so you can. So this notes which I put over here on the screen that you're seeing right now, it's directly from the lecture, and it's just this. Like it's not too complicated. So if you've understood it in class, you need not go back and look. Also, it's there. Don't worry. Right. Any doubts? Shall we proceed on to the next question? Are we good? Yeah, okay. So, yes, so I would, one small request is I would request everybody to interact a bit more because then it's easier. So I see, yes, some of you are interacting, so that's a good thing. But if others can also, and firstly, if you can keep your camera open, that would be the best thing. Like keep your videos on, then I'll at least be able to see that you're there and you're following it, and it helps the interaction better. Right now, it's becoming a bit of just me speaking. Right. So let's go to the next question. Yeah. So which of these methods of willingness to pay for service a person chooses from a list of amounts which he or she is willing to pay? Option A, open-ended contingent valuation. Option B, payment card contingent valuation. Option C, conjoint analysis. And option D, referendum contingent valuation. So before we answer this question, just to briefly talk, so we are mainly talking about willingness to pay over here. So this one, WT, it's a very important uh, metric or yardstick which is used uh, in order to before we plan any service to see whether people would be accepting the service or how much would people, so we always need to know how much people would be willing to pay. So there are several methods in order to find this so that we can budget the whole service that we are providing. So that's, so we have in our lectures also we have discussed different methods by which this willingness to pay can be analyzed. So here different methods are given. So the option over here is that a person chooses from a list of amounts which he or she is willing to pay, which means the person is given a list and then the person is choosing. So we have open-ended contingent valuation, payment card, conjoint analysis, and referendum contingent valuation. Any answers from anybody? Okay, I see C, conjoint analysis. Yes. Anybody else? Any other answer? Okay, so let's go option by option. So first one is open-ended contingent valuation. So uh, this one, so by contingent analysis, sorry, contingent valuation. So all these three fall under the same thing, contingent valuation. There's only one C, which is conjoint analysis, which is there. And these are different types of contingent valuation. So by in contingent valuation method, you're directly getting it out from the people on how much they're willing to pay, or you're getting a price, a proper price. So based on different methods, so you're getting a value, you're actually getting a value out of people. So in open-ended, what happens is that you do not know, you absolutely know, like it's completely open-ended. There's no boundaries on how much the person should be paying. So the person is directly asked how much would be willing to pay a service over here. For instance, you a new facility is going to come up over here. How much are you willing to pay for that? So the person has absolute choice in saying that I'll pay like probably 10 rupees to I'll pay like 1 lakh for that. Like in the sense, there's no limit to how much the person can quote. So one problem with this is that the person, either most often the sums are underestimated or it can even be overestimated. So you don't get a proper value out of it. So I'm just explaining each of this so that you can give me the answer to what the question is asking. So this is open-ended where the person's given a choice. Then we have payment card contingent valuation, where there are different cards in which the person's given certain choices. Like for instance, um, uh, there's so this value, would you be willing to pay this value? Would you be pay? So for instance, so 50 rupees. So will you be willing to pay 50 rupees for this service, which is 50 rupees per month for this service? Will you be willing to pay 100 rupees? So a certain set of values are thrown to the person, and then the person is asked, will you choose this, or will you choose this, or will you choose this? So you have different choices given to the person. Let me go to option D, which is referendum contingent valuation, where a specific amount is asked. Like, are you willing to pay this specific amount? So it's a referendum, which means you're referring to one particular amount, and then you're asking only that particular amount, and then you're collecting the data. Are they willing to pay this or not? So these are three contingent valuation method, and then you have conjoint analysis. So to explain conjoint, so I have a slide over here for so this is what we saw in the lecture about conjoint analysis, where we have certain parameters or attributes. So rather than saying, so in the previous one, the facility is taken as a whole, and then you're discussing about it. So over here, you have different attributes also, where you have attribute. So this is a good example, so that's why I took it. So you have different attributes, and all these attribute values are given, and then you have discrete choices. So choice A is a choice, or B is a choice, so you have different choices, and then in that you have different values. So now, now this is the value which the person is asked whether they're willing to pay. So you're shown these are the facilities you're going to get. Are you willing to pay this much amount for this facility? These are the choices that you have. Are you willing to pay this much amount for this facility? So there is more clarity to the person, where they're given certain attributes, and then they're asked. So again, now here they're not given an option on how much they will pay for this, but they're given a value, that is, you have this. Are you willing to take this up? And then in the next stage of this, based on their preference, so I would rather pay less and then get this facility, or I would rather pay more for this facility. So then in the next level, they rank these options based on their preference, considering all these factors, they rank it, and then based on the rank, the best facility, or the popular opinion based on the rank is chosen. So the individual who ranks it, so for this whole analysis, you take opinion from multiple individuals, right? Uh, One sec. Let me just let someone in. Someone. Yeah. Okay. Everybody is in right now. Okay. Good. Yeah. So you have. Yeah. So you have multiple individuals ranking it, and then based on this. So for instance, there might be uh, person A who ranked one choice as rank one, but a lot of people might have ranked another choice as rank two. But this, whatever the person is ranked one, nobody else is ranked as rank one, two, or three. So in that case, the rank two might get selected in an overall, when you look at an overall. So eventually, there's a ranking also which involved in the conjoint analysis. So now let's go back to the question, and can we see whether we can answer this question right now? So which option? Anybody, any guesses? Somebody says option D, referendum conjoint analysis. Okay. Okay. So the answer over here is option B, payment card contingent valuation, because it is in the payment card that a person is given a list of amounts. So in conjoint analysis, yes, you have certain choices with certain attributes which are given, but eventually they're not asked directly for their willingness to pay for that, but they are asked to rank it based on certain attributes which are given. But here in the question, we are not talking about any attributes. We are only talking about a list of amounts. That is a list of values which are given, and that is what is given in the payment card valuation. You're just giving a list of values, and then you're saying you have a college coming up. What would be your willingness, the fees that you would be willing if you want to enroll, like something like that. You want to enroll in the college. If, for instance, a bridge is coming up, how much toll would you be willing to pay if you're going to use that? So rather than directly asking them, different value cards are given, and then they know that this is the range of values that is expected also. So this helps in solving this problem of underestimating or overestimating the value. Right. Any doubts in this question? Right. Right, that's a very good question. So, this is taken everywhere. Whenever you're planning a service which involves public participation, or where you're planning a service for the people, you need to look at their willingness to pay. So, it is one of the attributes which are used in order to decide whether a service should be provided or not. So, if you look, it's there in all sectors, starting from setting up a normal sewage disposal system. How much are you willing to pay for a domestic collection system? Are you willing to pay for it? Or if you have to pay, so there are places where if people have to pay extra, then people might not be willing to take the service. So if you install the service, like for instance, you're installing an incineration plant and you're giving it to an agency to collect the waste, but if people are not willing to pay for the service, and if people are not willing to give their waste, then the whole system would not work, right? So before installing any system, so this was one example, be it transportation planning. So, for instance, you want to install a new bus, an AC bus in a new route. So, you look at how much people would be willing to pay for an AC bus. So, this has been one of problems which was there when metro also came up, because it before building a metro service, usually such a willingness to pay services are done. But I remember there was a post installation survey which said that people are not using. So this is pertaining to Cochin metro, which came up a few years before. There was a case which said that people are not using the metro because people do not want to pay that much amount and then get into the metro, whereas local connectivity is better, so people might rather use buses instead. So even though such willingness to pay surveys are conducted, in reality when it's put, there might be certain limitations or certain gaps. So again, you need to do another survey and probably improve the facility which is provided, or subsidize the facility so that people would be willing to use that. So to answer your question in simple words, it has to be done everywhere before installing a facility. Okay, okay. Yeah, but it's there. We know that as town planners or facility planners, transportation planners, they are usually involved in this. So there are certain set of survey agencies also who does this specifically, who are like their organizations who does this survey for the planners, for the government. They do these surveys. So yes, it is common. It needs to be done. Right. Shall we proceed on to the next question? Okay, I see a doubt over here. Is conjoined telling choice card? So isn't it willingness to pay? I mean, it is still choosing from a list, isn't it? Uh, it's not a list, right? Different it's different. Okay, so the difference over here is that when you're talking about a list, you're mainly talking about different values which are there in a list. Here you also, in addition to that, you also have different attributes over here. So yes, it's a list in that regard. You have different attributes, and then all these attributes compiled together, you have different choices. But here the question asks, a person chooses from a list of amounts which a person has to pay. So we are not talking about any attributes over here. So there, the you have a list, and again, you're not choosing. So you're not simply saying that I will choose this, but you're ranking it. You're saying that okay, this is better in this, so maybe I'll go for this as the first option, but I'm also fine with the second option. It's not as if I'm uh, rigid on one particular, but the other one, it's a choice card, and then you from the choice card you select one. So there's a discrete value which comes out of that, right? Okay, so we'll proceed on to the next question. Problem 6. Which of the following formula standard codes of practices and guidelines for design, construction, maintenance of, oh, sorry. Which of the following formulates standards, codes of practices and guidelines for design, construction, and maintenance of roads and bridges, road transportation, and traffic? Yes, very good. It is the Indian Road Congress, which is IRC, which is given over here. Very good. So, what does URDPFI stand for? Or what do they do? Like, let's leave the what do they? Very good. Yeah. So it's mainly about different urban development for overall urban development. So it stands for Urban Regional Development Plan. Yeah. Formulation and implementation. That was URDPFI. That's what it stands for. Okay. So you're right. It mainly talks about overall urban or regional level. What are the development projects or planning which needs to be done? How do we implement it? All that. So, but when it comes to roads or transportation network, we have a separate body or a separate guideline itself, which takes care of that, which is the IRC. Now, what is CPHEEO does, or what is its expansion, and what do they do? Very good. What do they do? Right. Right. Yes. So all the sanitation, public health facilities, overall health improvement, all that comes under the CPHEO. So when it comes to all our sanitation facilities, everything, we have our manual coming from CPHEO guidelines. Yes. No, last one we have CBRI. What is that? CBRI. Yes. Yes. Correct. So they, what do they focus on? It's there in the, so it's related to building research and more of infrastructural related building research organization, right? So yeah, so these are different codes. So in our lectures throughout, we might be seeing a lot of codes and standards taken from these manuals. So I mean, this will keep repeating over and over these terms, right? So let's proceed on to the next question. Which of the following statements is not true about life cycle assessment? A, it is a method or framework for assessing environmental and other potential impacts through the life of a product, process, or service. B, it helps in marketing of the product, process, or service. And C, it improves the design of the product, process, or service. And D, it does not help comparing different products providing similar utility or performing similar functions. So we are talking about life cycle assessment. What is life cycle assessment? Okay, a lot of people have answered it again. Life cycle assessment, from the name itself, for the overall life cycle, you're assessing the impact that this service or facility that you're providing, what it has. So this is again not in terms of just in terms of facility or services. This is a common term used for in other areas also. For instance, for a building, before building any building, you would look at life cycle assessment of the building, how much energy it contributes. You have embodied energy, you have operational energy, embodied carbon, you have operational carbon. So is it worth, or are you contributing a lot by building it this way? So you look at the overall impact that the building is having. So similarly, for an urban setting also, you're putting a facility, what is the overall contribute. So by embodied, or in the so when it comes to embodied, which means that in the production phase or in the installation phase, where the raw materials are coming from, where the labor is coming from, so in that, so from the, so not in the region when it's being actually operated, but in the construction stage or in the initial stages itself, how much of energy it's taking or how much of carbon it's contributing. So we look into all that environmental impact in the initial stage, as well as the operational stage, as well as in the destruction stage when it's being demolished, how much it's done. So it's the overall impact analysis which is done. So yes, now let's go option by option. Is option A correct? Yes, it's a method or framework for for assessing the overall impact for a process. So as discussed, product, process, or service. Option A is correct. Option B, it helps in marketing of the product. Yes, no. Yes, this is a very common term which is used for marketing of the product, to say that it doesn't consume, it doesn't contribute towards much carbon. So if you look at any uh, energy, like for instance, if you have an AC which is putting up in the market, you give an life cycle assessment, and then you show that this product has been developed in this way, so it's not impacting much. Or any building which comes up, in order to get a green certification, you do a life cycle assessment. Yes, LED bulbs, you show a life cycle assessment and then you show. So you might be aware of the Ujala project by this bulbs which are there. So it again does this life cycle assessment and then shows that the impact is much less. Right. So option B, it helps in marketing. Yes, that's also right. Option C, it improves the design of the product, process, or service. Yes, it improves the design also because based on the life cycle, you are you're improving it. Now, option D is does not help in comparing different products, providing similar utility or performing similar functions, which is a wrong statement because it helps because in the utility or provide. So we have the utility based parameter analysis which we saw before. So if you have the utility as the same thing, then this becomes another parameter of, or the LCA analysis becomes another parameter in order to choose whether it's better or not. So yes, so let's proceed on to the next question. Problem 8, which of the following statements is not correct about labor intensive services? A, it requires detailed planning and financing of large infrastructure projects and technology choices. B, it requires routine, repetitive operations requiring manpower. C, it requires continuous feedback from service recipients. D, it can be modified easily. This everybody should be able to answer this because we have yeah. It requires detailed planning and financing of large infrastructure projects and technology choices is a wrong statement. Yes, because this is labor intensive. This is applicable for a capital intensive because you are having large infrastructure being invested, so you need to have detailed planning and financing for that. The other statements, we've discussed it before, but just to refresh the memory, because it's labor intensive, it's repetitive, and it is labor intensive, so you require manpower for that, and then based on continuous feedback we can keep altering this or you can change it, so which means the feedback from the recipients is very important and we modify it based on that. Okay, let's proceed on to the next question. Problem 9, carrying capacity of an area does not depend upon which of the following characteristics? A, social characteristics of the population. B, economic characteristics of the population. C, location choice of population. And D, technology used. So, first, before we answer this, what do we mean by carrying capacity? Anybody? Carrying capacity of a region. Okay, so yes, yes, please. Very good. Very good, very good. Absolutely right. Yeah, so it's basically how much can the area support based on or how many people can the area support, or how much facilities can the area support based on the resources which are there. If you build this up, are you, or is this facility, how much people is this facility going to cater? So it's basically the capacity that can be catered. So, or in proper definition terms, it's the ability of an area to support a certain number of people based on its resources and facilities. So facilities are also a type of resources that an area possesses. So that's the carrying capacity. And this is important in all urban development projects. We design for a certain carrying capacity. So you look at the carrying capacity and then you design the facility. So it's important to know that. So here, so carrying capacity again depends upon certain other factors because it's an ability of the area. So there are a lot of factors which are related to that region or the resources which the region has, which directly and indirectly affects the carrying capacity. So here it's asked, what does not depend or carrying capacity does not depend upon which of the following? So A, social characteristics of the population. Does it depend? Yes, no. It doesn't depend upon the social characteristics of the population. Okay. Anybody else? Any difference in? Okay, so I see a long message in the chat. Let me just. Suranjana says it's a physical feature, a region with closed boundary, a road, stream of for fishing, a coastline tourism, but will have a unique physical identity. Uh, okay, I didn't. Okay, someone has raised their hand. Let me just finish this one sec. Carrying capacity is a physical feature, uh, a region with enclosed boundary, road or stream. Okay, it's the same thing. So the location is already decided. Okay, I didn't quite understand what was meant in the comment. I'll come. Hence, the location choice of people is not important. Oh, you're answering the question by saying that C is wrong. Okay, very good. Yes, let's come to that. Okay. Meanwhile, Pruta, you want to say something? Okay, very good. So location choice is not important. Okay, so a lot of people are saying option C. Very good. So let's again go option by option. So social characteristics of the population. So the carrying capacity of a region depends upon the social characteristics. Why? Because based on the social characteristics, uh, the lifestyle of the people would also be different. So based on that, the utilization of resources would be different. Based on that, the facilities that needs to be provided would be different, and based on that, the carrying capacity will also be different. So it depends. So the carrying capacity of one region with the same area might be different from a different region of the same area, but with different socio characteristics. Yes. Now, option B, economic characteristics of the population. Yes, of the same reason, if the economic characteristics are different, for instance, a very rich area would be able to support more facilities or would be able to import more resources from outside, and then the facilities which would be coming up over there or the carrying capacity of these facilities can also be increased because of the economic because you have the amount of money that's available. Whereas if the opposite is also true. If you do not have good investment in a region, then your carrying capacity will have to be uh, yes. Okay, right. So your economic characteristics of the population also influences the carrying capacity. Now comes the location choice of the population. As rightly said, this is the entire region. So now by carrying capacity, you're talking about the ability of the region to support. Now where people live, that location choice is not dependent upon the carrying, or it does not influence the carrying capacity, because it just so what mainly influences carrying capacity is the social background of the people, the economic capability of the people, what facilities are there in the people, or whatever technology is there in the people. But where, or the spatial choice where people are located in that region, it doesn't matter about their carrying capacity, because wherever they are, it's not affecting the ability of the region to change, right? So the answer to this question is the location choice. I see a comment over here: location choice carrying capacity changes, for example, the hilly area. So again, this location choice we're talking, so the hilly area or that region as a whole is what we are talking about, where the location, uh, how do I explain? So we are talking about the carrying capacity of this region, right? So yeah, correct. Yeah. So what happens over? Yes. So that's a very valid. It's good that you have asked this. Yes. So there are environmental factors. So here, uh, in this region, we are mainly talking about a specific city or a region. So in that city, whether the facility or the carrying capacity of that facility changes is what we are asking. So if we are taking a hilly region, we are considering that region or based on the environment. So that's why it's the environmental factor which acts, or the social economic character. Which so we are here, let me say, we have a facility. So first we are defining the region, and it's in this region that we are mainly talking about. So in this region, if the socio-economic characteristics of in this A or B changes, so here let's say we are talking mainly about a city. So yes, there's a constraint, or there's a because mainly regions are based on this corporation or municipality, so it's already divided. So in this, sorry, let's, yeah, it's important to clarify this. So in this, based on the socio-economic characteristics or the investment that is available or the technology that is available in the region, the carrying capacity that the facility can serve varies. So if you're talking about a hilly region, it's that hilly region that we are talking about. Yes, I agree that the carrying capacity or the facilities that we can bring to the city and the hilly region might be different. But here we are, or by when we talk about carrying capacity of an area, so that's why it's specified carrying capacity of an area. We are mainly talking about that well-defined area where we are planning to provide a facility, or or for instance, you're planning to build a road by carrying capacity. Let's take a very simple example. We are planning to build a road in one region. So you look at what are the characteristics of that region in order to see how much people it can cater to in that particular region. And yes, for a region with completely different environmental uh, impact, it will vary. So which means the location, or the location in the sense the region is changing or the environmental conditions are changing. That's different from the location choice of the population. What by location choice of the population, you're talking about where people are uh, willing to live, or where people are willing to go to work. So that means you're talking about a confined region, uh, which is the city, or that particular region, or if it's a hilly region, that entire region, and the population might be living in different parts of that region. Is that clear? Okay, let's go to the next question. Problem 10. Which of the following options are correct? Again, carrying capacity is the ability of an area to support population based on available resources and their usage. And option B, urban resources include different urban services and infrastructure. Option C, infrastructure, facilities and services within an area affects the quality of life and the environment. Option D, urban resources are also not dependent, and provision of one does not affect the other. Okay, so these are all different. So first one we can answer. Is it correct? Carrying capacity of an area, ability of the area. Okay, so Pruta, yes. Okay, right. So the question mainly asks which of the options are correct. So if we say that option A is correct, we need to mark. So the first one is a definition which says carrying capacity is, so it's a definition of carrying capacity which is given. Carrying capacity is the ability of an area to support population based on available resources and their usage. So is this a correct statement or not? That's the question. Okay, that I don't. Let me just check. Option A, option B, different resources. No, this doesn't have multiple correct answer. Oh, sorry, this is correct. This has multiple correct answers. Yes, this has multiple correct answers. Yes, so option A is correct. Yeah, since the question has asked what is the correct answer, this has multiple correct answers. So mainly you will know that in the assignment, the boxes would be different. Sorry, the boxes would be different. If it's a round box, which even in your exam you can make a note of this. If it's a round box, then that means there's only one correct answer. If it is a square box, which means multiple answers are correct. Now this, since it's given this way, I got a bit confused, but yeah, this is a multiple right answer question. So yes, so carrying capacity, so this is a correct answer. B, urban resources include different urban services and infrastructure. Is that a correct answer? Yes, so somebody has already answered A, B, C are correct. So I'll go with that. Yes, B is correct. If anybody has any difference in opinion, you can stop me and say that it's not correct. Now, C, infrastructure, facilities, and services within an area affects the quality of life and the environment. Is that correct? Yes. Yes, that's also correct. Now, last one, urban resources are, so I think this also is creating confusion over there. Just leave that. Urban resources are not dependent, are not dependent, and provision of one does not affect the other. Is that a correct statement? So according to Shweta, it's not a correct statement. Anybody else who feels it's not a correct statement? Okay, so it just says that there are different urban resources, and these resources are not interdependent, or there is no connection between these resources. That's what this says. And the provision of one resource does not affect the other is what the other one says. For instance, if you have one facility which is given, or one resource which is being used, that does not affect the other resource. That's the next portion. So is that a correct statement? D is incorrect. No, yeah, correct. You're right. This is an incorrect statement. Which, with, why? Because urban resources are all interdependent. That is, if you have, so we discussed in our previous lecture also. Even when you're planning a facility, you need to plan for the integration of these facilities because they are all interdependent. For instance, let me just say that if you're planning to install a new bus route, or you're planning to improve the transportation, you're planning you're planning to increase the number of buses running. But then if your roads are not equipped enough to cater to these buses, like if multiple buses are running back to back in that road, if the road quality of the road is not good enough in order to cater to that, then the whole facility would not be like it will not be beneficial, right? So by urban resources, urban facilities also fall under these urban resources. So they're all interdependent. So if you have one facility, you also need to see whether the other facility is able to support this facility. So there's an interdependent facility. Yes, as Shweta rightly said, solid waste management and sewage facilities, they're interdependent. So solid waste management is one example which we will be seeing throughout this course. It's a very good example to talk about different urban resources. That's a very good example pointed out by Shweta. So you should have your sewage facilities and your solid waste management facilities, and they should be interrelated. And also the other services which are there, for instance, collection services. Now these also needs to be integrated. So that is also interdependent on this. So there's always an interdependency relationship, which means that this option, which gives over here saying that they are not dependent or they're independent, is a wrong statement. Right? Any doubts in this? Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, sorry for that. Let's continue. So question 11, which yeah, question 11. Yeah, question 11. Which of these statements are true about categories of projects or activities as per EIA notification? Statement A, all MSWM facilities, example, capping of existing dump sites, landfill gas-based power plants, etc., are category A projects. Statement B, MSW power-based power plants greater than or equal to 20 megawatt capacity are classified as category B projects. And statement C, MSWM facilities are category A projects if located within 10 kilometers of wild reserves or protected areas. Statement D, MSW based power plants less than 20 megawatt capacity and greater than 15 are classified as category B projects. So this is again a multiple correct answer question. Different statements can be correct. So yes, somebody says statement C is correct. Okay, is that the only correct answer? And D is correct. Okay. Statement B is correct. Okay. So let's go. Okay. So let's go option by option. Statement A. Okay. Before that, what is EIA? Okay, very good. So we are mainly talking about environmental impact assessment, and as per the notification 2006, different facilities have been grouped into different groups. That is Group A and Group B. So, and what is MSWM or MSW that we are talking about? Okay, so you're talking about the solid waste management. So this is the municipal solid waste management that we are. Very good. Yes, Ashirwad. Yes, very good. Correct. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. So I think we've dealt with all the jargons. Yeah, okay, all done. Now, yes, now let's go. Statement A. Now, if this facility is, so capping of existing dump sites, landfill, all this, all MSWM facilities are category A projects, is what it says. Is it a correct statement? Yes, no? So then what is the correct statement? Is it category B? No, that I understood. How do we make statement A correct is what I was asking. Yes, Shal has put, yes. So this will be category B projects. So it's not, so this definition is correct, but then it is category B project. It's not category A. Now statement, so this is a wrong statement. Now statement B says MSW based power plants greater than or equal to 20 megawatt capacity is classified category B projects. So Pruta says that's a correct answer. Is there anybody who says that's not a correct answer? Okay, yes. So Shal says category A, which means are you saying that it's a wrong statement? Okay, so this is a wrong statement actually. This one, MSW based power plants greater than or equal to 20 comes under category A again. It's not B, it's category A. I think that's what Shalvaiyala also meant. So this is a wrong statement. And statement C, which says that MSW facilities are A if located within 10 kilometers of wildlife reserve, that's a correct statement. I think many have already pointed that out. And then statement D, uh, MSW based power plants less than 20 and lying between 15. This is also a correct statement. So if it is greater than 20, so between 15 and 20, it is category B. And if it is greater than 20, it is category A. It's not category B. Right. Any doubts in this question? Shall we proceed further? Yes, Pruta, are you asking something? Okay. Let's proceed further. Yeah, so this is from the lecture from. Yes, Pruta. Okay, so you see the slide over here, environmental impact assessment slide. Okay, so this is what we learned in our lecture, what professor was explaining. So if we have, so this is the environmental impact assessment. So as per EIA notification 2006, we have category A and category B projects. Now, these again, the rationale is based on certain like surveys, certain guidelines have been formulated. So like that, this is formulated. So this is a standard that we are following. So as per this standard, all MSW facilities are category B projects. So now in our question, it was asked whether it was mentioned that it is category A project, but it is actually category B projects. Now, if so these are called category A if they're located within 10 kilometers of wildlife or protected region. So which means category A is a bit more sensitive region that we are talking about. Like it's more like what do you say impact is a bit like you need to be more sensitive because these are even a lesser impact from these regions might affect the population or wildlife easily. So some things which are located within 10 kilometers, which means it's nearby, all these fall under category A projects. Now then, in terms of non-hazardous MSW based power plants, so when it comes to that, A and B division is based on the megawatts which it consumes. So anything above 20 megawatts is said to be category A, and something which lies between 15 to 20 is category B. So now the question in the previous question, it jumbled these things up and asked. So based on that, I think you might have got confused with statement B, which said that MSW based power plants greater than 20 is category B is what they said, but that is category A because as per this we know that anything above 20 is category A. Right? Is that clear? Yes? Okay, let's proceed. Problem 12. Which of these statements is true about Likert scale? Oh, this is a very interesting question. So statement A states Likert scale is commonly constructed with 10 or 15 points or options. B. Likert scale is ordinal in nature. C. Higher order Likert scales can be treated as an interval scale. And D. Arithmetic operations can be conducted on Likert scale. What is a Likert scale? Any examples or to measure maximum number? Okay. Yeah, I think I'm getting your point. So, for instance, if you want to know the level of satisfaction from a person, so you might just ask them, how satisfied are you? They can say they're satisfied. Now, instead of like they're saying they're satisfied, so it can be like they are satisfied, they are not satisfied. So let's say not satisfied, uh, or let me say in between there is they're slightly satisfied, they're satisfied. Then there are so there can be different metrics. So now this can be more way, like for instance, they want uh, sorry, they want something to be improved. Or for instance, let me take the example of comfort. That be an easier method. So one way they can say they feel comfortable. If you're saying that you're sitting somewhere, how comfortable are you? Are you feeling comfortable? One can be they're comfortable. The other can be they are feeling warm, or the other can be they're feeling hot. Now the other one can be they are feeling cold. Sorry, they're feeling cool, which means it's okay. And then the other one can be they're feeling cold. So if you're taking it in this, and then if you say that if zero is me saying that I'm feeling comfortable, like I'm neutral or I'm okay, and then very cold is like is something like cool is something -1, and very cold is -2. And then for instance you have warm, which is +1, and then you have hot, which means it's +2. So you have a scale between +2 and -2. So this can be a Likert scale because you are having certain categorical options, which means it's warm, and then you're giving it a value or a number which can be easily understood by people. Or for instance, after doing any survey or anything, buying anything, we might see how satisfied with you with the performance. You will have different symbols like this, like I'm extremely satisfied, I'm not satisfied. So based on this you select. So this again can be coded as like I'm this is zero, sorry, this is zero, this is one, this is two, something like that. So when you have a level of satisfaction, or when you have some metrics that you're associating to for to get an opinion from people, a Likert scale is used. For instance, you have certain numbers specifying certain things. Now these numbers do not actually denote numbers on in terms of numeric numbers, but these are certain codes or numbers which are given to certain level, certain category, certain value that we need. So that's Likert scale. Now, when you're talking about a 15, so this is a how many point? From -2 to +2. If you take how many points are there? So you have one, two, three. Yeah, correct. You have got 5 points. So that's a 5 point Likert scale. Now, 10 to 15 points means like this, it's spread. So you'll have more variables which are coming in between where you say that a little bit warm, a little what better. So it can be like, how do you feel? Better, best, like, yeah, I feel good, better, best, or I feel bad, worse, worst, something like that. So you can have, so that becomes a 7 point scale because you have two points to the 2 points positive and sorry 3 points positive and 3 points negative, and then you have something in between, so that becomes a 7 point scale because 3 plus 3 plus 1 7. Now if you have a 15 point scale, that which means 10 to 15 means it's again spreading. So the difference between each variable or each category might be a bit might not be very high in that because you have more, it's more evenly spread. Or if you say that on a scale of 1 to 100, how satisfied are you about this place? So then if somebody chooses a satisfaction level of 80, and if somebody chooses a satisfaction level of 81, there might not be much difference between 80 and 81 because it's on a level of 1 to 100. It all lies between that 80. So that is what is asked over here. So that is Likert scale. Now the question asks, first one, Likert scale is commonly constructed with 10 to 15 points or options. Is that a correct statement? No, it is only 1 to 5. Okay. Anybody else? Any difference of opinion? Is it only 1 to 5? Is it only 1 to 7? Like anything like that? Okay. So this is a wrong statement because it said that it's constructed with 10 to 15 points. The answer is that there is no rigid value that needs to be put. It's never only 1 to 5. It can be. So for instance, this one we discussed it as 5 points. But for instance, if I feel normal. Like, how do you feel today? A very simple question. How do you feel today? I feel normal. I feel good. I feel a bit better than yesterday. I feel the best. Then, so this, and then the other one, I feel bad. I feel worse than yesterday. I feel this is the worst day in my life. So imagine this is a scale which is there given to a person to ask, how do you feel today? Now this becomes 0, 1, 2, 3. This becomes -1, -2, -3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this has 7 skills. This is what I was explaining before also. So it can be, there can be different scales. As I said, if it is from 0 to 100, how satisfied are you? This has 100 points. So there is no upper limit or lower limit, or as to, I mean, lower limit, obviously it has to be 0 or 1 at least, like it has to be have at least 3 points because there should be like I feel normal, or I feel good or I feel bad. So otherwise, there's no Likert. There's nothing to compare between that. So we can say that 3 is normally considered to be the minimum, but there's never an upper limit which is there. So I see a comment over here which says generally it is 5-point scale. Yes, so for several things you can take a 5-point scale because uh, you also say that if you give too many options to people when you're asking something, it might confuse the people also. So for surveys, you take a 5-point scale. But you cannot generalize that for anything because for every specific survey which is being conducted, the scale changes. So tuning the scale is also an art in order to find what should be the appropriate scale. For very simple example, I can take this one, or for comfort evaluation, usually it's a 7-point scale which is taken for thermal comfort evaluation. There are standards which say that 5-point scale is not good compared to a 7-point scale, so it's always a 7-point scale which can be taken. So or 3-point scale is not good. So like that you cannot generalize it. It depends on different functions. But this statement is wrong because again it's saying that it is constructed with 10 to 15 points because it's giving a value. There's no value like that. Okay, so this is wrong. Now statement B, Likert scale is ordinal in nature. What do you mean by ordinal? Okay, somebody says it's wrong, somebody says it's right. Very good. So, what do we mean by ordinal in nature? Very good. Yes, it is basically ranking. So, which means we have an order. The ordinal, the term ordinal comes from that there's some order. So let's before we discuss this, what are so there are different data types. So there are 5 data types, 4 data types, let's say 4 data types. What are the different 4 data types? Anybody, this we did not discuss this in the lecture. It's not there in the slides. So I'm just asking, can you say what are the other different data? Yes, ordinal scale, interval scale. Yes, very good. Interval scale and ratio scale. Yeah, yeah, I think I've written that, right? Nominal, interval, and then you have the ratio scale. Sorry. Yeah, ordinal. So I've just written these over here. So 3 and then 4. I think that's visible, right? Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. Very good. So then you also, if it's numeric terms, you can even say that you have discrete data and then you have continuous data also. So on that, all the new. So here, when we're talking about nominal, which means there's a category or you're giving a category or just naming it, whatever it is. So for instance, the previous one, you have category A and category B. There is nothing like category A is superior to category B. It's just 2 categories. But ordinal means you're giving it a rank also. You're saying that A is more preferred or B is less preferred. So when it comes over here, we know that, for instance, you have normal and then you have good. So you know that good, better, best, this is what you want, best is what you're more interested. Or if you take this example, satisfaction, where how people are satisfied. You want a happy face, so which means you're ranking it. So one, two, three, third one means that's better. So there's a rank which is there, or there's an order which is there. So Likert scale is actually an ordinal scale, which means along with the categories, it also has a rank which says that I am prioritizing this. For instance, in the previous one where we discussed about contingent analysis, we are talking about ranking. So you're getting 1, 2, 3 rank. So again, if you have 10 factors and you're ranking it, so that can also be said as a Likert scale. That is, so many people over here have ranked this. So Likert scale is ordinal in nature. Whatever we are doing over here is actually ranking the different, or there is an order of the preference, or you know that if the preference is this, it is more superior to the other value. So you have a target, so it is ordinal in nature, right? Now the other ones, interval and ratio, if you have a range of values, it's an interval scale that you're talking about. So an example can be the for instance the height of people in a class, so or of a particular age, that is always in an interval, or it's in a range. Like it can vary between probably 150 centimeter to 160 centimeter in a class. It's talking in a school, so that can be the case. And then you have different ratio data also. So these are different types of data types. So yeah, now coming back to the question, so this statement is a correct statement because Likert scale is ordinal in nature. Now, statement C, higher order Likert scales can be treated as an interval scale. Is that right? Higher order Likert scale can be treated as an interval scale. Yes. Because why? Because that's what we were discussing before. If you have higher order, like 100 points, then anything that lies very close to each other might imply the same thing, which means the same, taking the same example, somewhere between 80 to 90, it might be the same thing. Like, how satisfied are you? I am 80% satisfied. Pruta is saying I'm 82% satisfied, and Ritesh is saying I'm 85% satisfied, which means it's the same thing. Like, you're overall you're satisfied. So so it can be. So if it's a higher order, it can be considered as an interval. For satisfaction level 80 to 90, I can say the person is satisfied with that facility or with the environment. So yes, so statement C is also correct. And statement D states that arithmetic operations can be conducted on Likert scales. Is that right? No, no, it cannot be conducted. Why? Because taking any of these examples, if I say, if one person says that he feels good and the other person says that he feels the best, or let's say the other way, one person says that they feel bad and the other person says he feels the best, and if we average this both and then we say that overall these both people are feeling good, that's not the correct statement, right? So we cannot. So you cannot do any arithmetic operations. Usually arithmetic operations are performed on discrete data or continuous data or ratio data. Ratio data is where all arithmetic operations can be performed. The other ones, there are certain limitations on. Yeah, interval we can do arithmetic operations, yes, but again, when you need to first uh, take the data, and those intervals need to be uh, fixed, or there are some limitations. What do you say? It's not as simple as doing it on a ratio. You need to do some data modification before you can perform arithmetic calculations on an interval data. So yes, it can be done with some modifications on that. But yeah, so coming back to the question, statement D is a wrong statement. So the answer is both statement B and C. Yeah, correct. Very good. So what happens if there are 1 to 50 points and all 200 responses lie between 33 and 45? What then? Are you talking about arithmetic operation being conducted over there? I didn't understand the question properly. Then will it be an interval scale? So see, this depends upon so 50 is a good data point, like in the sense 50 is a good scale. So if you have, so let's say, let me break your question down. So I have 0 to 1 to 50. People can vote something for 1 to 50. So let's say that's about how give me some example, like or if it's more judicious to reframe. See, it again, it all depends upon what is the function that you're putting it into use, or what are you using the scale for, what are you measuring with the scale. So if you're gonna ask, if into 1 to 50, if you're gonna ask someone's willingness to pay, let's say that you have different cards and then you're asking a person, will you be, let's say it's a referendum contingent analysis, not contingent, um, yeah, referendum contingent analysis, where you're saying that uh, will you be willing to pay so much, like how much money are you, or um, okay, let me give an example that would be easier. Or let's say satisfaction, that's the most easiest to understand. 1 to 50, how satisfied are you? So if somebody says they're satisfied, so this you'll have to split it. It's again, it's not based on the response that you're splitting it. You're splitting it evenly to say that the variations in this will not bring about much variation. For instance, if someone's 0 to 10, if someone's putting a value 0 to 10, more or less might be the same. But again, you cannot say that if someone's 10 and someone is 11 and then there's a lot of difference between that. So you cannot, yeah, it's not easy to draw hard boundaries along those lines like that. But still, you do that split. That's how you do for grading systems and all. You do, if somebody is more than scoring 81 or above, you get a better grade, right? So you know that it's not a very good metrics of doing it, but still you do that. So in an interval ratio, or when you consider it as an interval scale, you draw distinct boundaries. Now where do you draw these boundaries depends upon the question or depends upon the function that you're putting it into. But if you're saying that all the 200 response lie between 33 and 45, so now what are you using this for? Are you using this to find what is the majority vote? If you're using this to find what is the majority vote, then you don't have to do anything. You because it's lying between 33 and 45, you know that okay, the values between 33, whatever categorical values you have associated with 33 and 45, it the opinion lies somewhere over there. But or are you trying to understand the difference in opinion between people? If you're trying to understand the difference in opinion between people, then again you need to split this, because there might be a lot of difference between 33 and 45, and you're interested to find what is this dispersion or what is this difference that the population wants. So then you need to again go further and analyze that. So the next part is, or is it more judicious to frame it with 15 points? So this, to answer very simply, it depends upon the function that you're putting it into use. I cannot say that a 15 point is better in general or a 50 point is better in general. I hope I've answered your question, right? If you can find, no, what example? You give me an option. So examples are this. So if you have a level of satisfaction uh, to a service, and you're asking how satisfied are you with the bus transport facility over here? Yeah, no, I mean, we can clear it now itself. Uh, okay, so I'm giving you multiple examples right now. So if you have a level of, I also am confused. Yes, B and C both are correct. So which means D is the correct answer. Both statement B and statement C are correct, which is there in option D. This is the correct answer. Because the question asks which is true, and statement B is correct, statement C is correct. Now this is part of the question, and these are the options which says only statement B is correct, both statement A and B are correct, only D is correct, statement B and C are correct. So this is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Understood? Okay. What is your confusion over here? Okay. There are multiple answers which can be correct to these statements. So they've asked which are the statements which are true. So our statement B is true. Statement C is also true. Statement B we discussed. Likert scale is ordinal in nature. It has an order. We can do ranking in Likert scale. So that is also a correct statement. And it can be treated as an interval when we have higher order Likert scale. Those are also correct. So which means statement B and C both are correct. So if both are correct, we have different options which says option D is the one which says both statement B and statement C are correct. Is that clear now? Okay, so we'll proceed on, and then by the end, if you still have this doubt, towards the end, we'll take this question up. And Suranjana, yours also, I think I gave you a few examples, but after class, I'm not really understanding what is the confusion right now. So after class, we can have a discussion on that. Let's proceed right now because we have a lot of questions more. So, yeah, so problem 13, EIA for non-hazardous MSW based power plants is evaluated by A, state level Environment Impact Assessment Authority, B, Expert Appraisal Committee, C, State Level Expert Appraisal Committee, and D, State Population Control Board. Yeah, so any guesses? So what you need to answer is this one. Is all the statements correct? Only A and D are correct? Only B and C are correct, or A and C are correct? So this is part of the question. This much is full part of the question, and these are the options. These are the options. So this, yes, Pruta, are you okay? Shalvaila says B. B, A and D are correct. So which means A and D are correct. State Pollution Control Board, state level. Yes, okay. Anybody, any other difference in opinion or any other answers? Option A and C. So Pruta says state level expert appraisal committee is also important. So expert appraisal committee is not important then, or is it not there? A and D are correct. Somebody says A and D. Okay, I saw that. B, yeah, okay. So the answer is A, all of the above, which means A, B, C, and D. All of them are involved. So these are again multiple bodies in order to decide, make all these evaluation and decisions. So this is the answer. I'll just show you where we have discussed this in the slide. So in this environmental impact assessment slide where we have discussed how to get environmental clearance. So before getting an environmental clearance, it has to be passed through all these agencies. So you have the state level committee, authority, expert appraisal committee, then you have state level expert appraisal committee. So this is an external appraisal committee which gives a report to the state level appraisal committee, which again needs to employ this, and then a state level pollution board committee. So since they are non-hazardous, I thought only state level is sufficient. Uh, okay, yeah, no, but this is we are talking about non-hazardous over here. To get environmental clearances for non-hazard, no, we need to go through all these agencies. So it's important, right? So we are proceeding on to the next question. Match the following concerning the different EIA clearance steps. So we have different EIA steps. First one is screening, public consultation, review of EIA, post monitoring, and the descriptions are given over here. So the descriptions. So let's go by this first one, screening, which matches the best. Concerns of local people or the people affected by the project are determined for addressing them in the mitigation plan. Scrutiny for determining project category and the need for EIA to ensure impacts are within standard mitigation measures and standard mitigation measures are effective, um, and adequacy and effectiveness of the report. Scrutiny for determining project category. Yes, very good. So this is the initial step. So you're the first one. You screen it or you scrutinize this, and then you say which category or what are the elements that you need to look into. So this is the initial process that's been asked. Then public consultation. What does that fall under? Very good. Yeah, concerns of the local people. That's directly from that because you're consulting the public for doing this. Then option R, review of EIA, review of EIA. So review of EIA comes from the okay. Let's post monitoring then. If we can answer that, then we'll again get back. The fourth one is for review of EIA, adequacy and effectiveness of the report. Is it? Yeah, okay. So R is 4. And then post monitoring, we have to ensure impacts are within the standards. Yes, ensure impacts are within the standards. So what option does that work out to? P is 2 and is it option A? Yeah, the answer was option A. So just to go into those details, so these are the different steps which are involved. So we have screening first, which is you're just understanding the project category. Then something which was not mentioned was scoping. This is also important where you're giving the scope of so you have the boundary, extent time, and then you have the T. What is TOR? What does that come under? Yeah, so I've yeah muted. Yeah, okay. So yeah. So this one, what is TOR? What does that stand under? So it's basically the terms of reference, or you have certain documents which are prepared, which gives the reference, the governing documents which needs to be there. So all that terms of reference which needs to be used for EIA, all that comes under the scope. So basically, you're just collecting all the data and then you're putting what are the limits, or you're giving the scope of that, the bounds of this EIA report, what it should be there. Right. Then you have public consultation, this we discussed. Then you have mitigation in between where you reduce certain steps are taken in order to reduce. Then you have reporting, which we discussed. Then review, decision making, and post monitoring. So these are the different steps which are involved, and some of these were asked in the question before. Right. Any doubts? Let's proceed further. Yeah. So identify the correct hierarchy of environmental impact mitigation option. So since okay, I think my slide is a bit stuck over here. Do you see half slides? Right, now it's correct. Yeah, yeah, okay, good. Yeah, now it's good. So, yes. So this, since we've already seen the previous slide, I'm sure you'll be able to answer this easily. So I'm not reading the options out. Which option is best? Or which is the correct hierarchy or the order? No half. Okay, good. Option A, preventive, minimization of impact via design, and then you have compensatory. Yes, somebody says option B, compensatory first, then you minimize, and then you take preventary measures. Okay, but if you do that, which that means it's a post evaluation, right? Or it's a what do you say? After something has happened, you're taking a compensatory measure. No, first you prevent it. You try to prevent it, and through design, you try to reduce the impact, and you're trying your best. And still, if it doesn't work, then you go for compensatory measures. So that's how it should be. But yeah, in other terms, probably sometimes what happens might be option B. You go for compensatory, and then you understand that, and then you see, oh, in the future you need to give preventive measures. So such might be happening. But the ideal situation of what is as per rule is you first take the preventive measure, then you try to reduce the impact using designs or interventions or technology, operation, everything. And even if it doesn't work, then you go for other compensatory measures to try that. Yeah. So option A is the right answer. So let's go to the next question. Match the following concerning the urban service. Option A is most suitable, at least theoretically, for greenfield. Yes, correct. Yeah, so we are talking about the guidelines, like the standards which we are following. So that's why option A is the correct answer. Now, question 16, match the following. So this is again a very simple question: labor intensive service and capital investment service. So description. So this you can easily answer and tell me what's the answer. Labor intensive service, it's solid waste collection or solid waste incineration. Labor intensive collection. Labor intensive is always collection. The other one in police patrolling and sanitary landfill, is it labor intensive or yeah, police patrolling is labor intensive, correct. And sanitary landfill, it is labor intensive or capital. Yeah, so this is capital intensive. So this one, solid waste incineration plant, is capital intensive. So that works out to which option? One, two. That is also option A, right? Very good. Yeah, so that's option A. So let's proceed on to the next one. 17. Identify the indicators of population forecasting from the following. Yeah, so we learned about different methods of population forecasting. All of them. Yeah, this we discussed. So all of them. Let's proceed quickly to the next question. Identify the assumption corresponding to economic methods of population forecasting. A, economic events play a role. Opening or closing of a major industry change employment and population in an urban area. C, migration plays a large role. Birth and death rates are less sensitive to economic changes. D, migrants bring dependence, which generates new requirement and additional labor in subsidiary industries and housing. So all of the above, yes, very good. All of the above play a major importance. So this comes under the economic method. Since we discussed before, I'm not going into the details again. Now, yeah, so this is the population change after a certain period n with respect to t is given by. So this is the migration or natural increase method. So we have discussed this formula, so you can right away answer the question. Which option? Suranjana says option A. That's for this one, I'm supposing. Birth minus death. Yes, option A is the correct answer. Birth minus death, in migration minus out migration. Yes, very good. Now, problem 20. So different population forecasting methods are given and their descriptions are given. So economic method, logistic curve method, ratio method, and the descriptions are: smaller area projections are determined based on the available projections of a parent area. Then you have economic events play a major role. And third one represents a trend of growth which initially grows but eventually comes down to almost zero, which is a universal biological law of growth. So economic method, the first one, smaller area projections are determined based on the availability projections of a parent area. Just hold on one second. दादा मैं class में हूँ. मैं करूंगा, मेरा नाम लिखो जेसलू, मैं करूंगा। हाँ हाँ हाँ, या ratio method, yes, so this we discussed in the beginning itself, so that is ratio method. The other one, economic events play a major role, by name itself, economic method. Now we have logistic curve method, which we have very briefly discussed in our lectures. So it mainly shows that the curve or the growth. So if this is something which we had in 2000s, then 2010, now 2000, by 2020, it's somewhere reached over here. So which means that there is a trend in growth, but after eventually, so okay, so this is sorry, this is economical, sorry, exponential. So this is exponential growth, so after a point, it is growing completely. The opposite, logistic curve method is completely opposite of this, where after a point, it doesn't grow or it reaches a saturation level. So the growth comes down, the logistic curve comes down, and then after a point, it doesn't. So the exact opposite of this, it comes down and reaches. So universal biological law states that it initially grows at a very, very high rate, and after that, it reaches a saturation level. So it'll be something like this, that it grows and then it's somewhat the growth is like reaching a saturation level. After a point, it is not growing. So this is exponential, this is logistic curve. So you know it's exact opposite, right? So that works out to which option? Option A again, right? So let's go to the next question. Yeah, this we have already discussed. So problem 22, URDPFI guidelines include suggestions on. So this you can easily answer. We have already discussed this, a similar question. Planning process, yes. Resource mobilization, yes. That also. Approaches and strategies for regional and urban planning, yes. So all of the above is the answer for that. Now just two benchmark level questions also before we move on to one calculation. So a benchmark, so as per URDPFI guideline, the household level of service for sewage, solid waste management service is 100%, 90%, 75%, 50%. So so this is household level, HS is household level. And what do we mean by benchmark before we go to this question? Yeah, so benchmarks are nothing but certain uh, yeah, standards or level of standards up to which the facility should be there. Or for instance, in this one, it says that um, solid waste management should be provided to, if it's 100%, that means all households. If it's 90%, which means 90% of the household. If some people of some regions are left out, that's okay, because it's not feasible to provide the service to everybody. So you're targeting, you're saying that if 90% of the people are satisfied, then you're saying that the service is good and people are satisfied. So that is the benchmark which is given. Somebody answered, benchmark is agreed upon standard. It's an optimum value combining the ideal and feasible. Exactly. Very good. That's the correct one. Yeah. So it is based on what is feasible. So over here for household solid waste management, yes, somebody has already given the answer, that is 100%. So this is solid waste management is very important, and the benchmark itself says that it should be 100%. Now there's, so these are the different benchmarks which we learned from URDPFI. So another question, if you're going to the next question, the benchmark level for municipal solid waste recovery or recycling of the solid waste, what does that, how much percentage does that fall under? 80%, yes, very good. 80% is the right answer. So we saw over here, uh, yeah, so extent of municipal solid waste recovered or recycled will be 80%. So these are certain standards or guidelines which are given. So before we conclude today's class, let's do this one population projection formula, because we've learned about different methods. So we have learned about arithmetic progression method. So this is nothing but our normal arithmetic progression. So I'm sure you would be knowing. Then we have learned geometric progression method, which is the exponential growth, which we discussed just before. Then we also learned incremental increase method. So incremental increase method is a bit different. So you're also taking into consideration the difference in rates, with rate of growth which are happening over time. So for instance, if we have like A and then B and then C, for instance, this is 2000 and this is 2010, and then this is 2020. From A to B, there has been an increase of, let's say, population, 100 people have increased, just in very simple terms. And from B to C, it has become 150. So now in arithmetic increase method, what we do is we would average this out. It would be 100 plus 150, and we would take the average, and that would be the arithmetic mean. And then we would project and then say in 2030, how much people would be there. But there has also been an increase over here, like from the increase from A to B and the increase from B to C has increased by 50. So this increase, that is not coming anywhere, or we're flattening it out, or we are averaging it out. But incremental increase method considers this also, which means that from uh, C to D when we are moving, in addition to this mean increase, there can also be an incremental increase also happening over there. For instance, another 50 incremental increase can also be there. So the formula of incremental increase goes that if you have population, like to find for a time t, like for let's say 2030 or something, it is the initial population plus our normal arithmetic increase for time t. What is the arithmetic mean? Based on arithmetic mean, we would say. In addition to that, we also have something t into t plus 1 by 2 into k. So this is for the next time period you're taking, where k is our incremental increase. Incremental increase. So that is, in this case, it's the 50 over here. That's the incremental increase. So let's try to solve this problem. Okay, I didn't leave a page for that. Uh, so, okay, I'll just write it over here to solve the problem. So we have the data which is given over here. So I'm just rewriting the data so that let me just rewrite it over here. So it's the same data, 1971, we have population around 60,000. Then 1981, we have population 65,000. 1991, we have population 82,000. 2001, it's 1 lakh 50,000, 1 lakh 5,000. And then in 2011, it's 1 lakh 32,000. It's the same data, right? Yeah, it's the same data, right? So then now we are taking the increase, which is the arithmetic increase, which means this minus this you would do, and then we'll take the arithmetic increase. So yeah, you want me to stay in this page, so that's why I rewrote the whole thing so that I can uh, do the calculation. Okay, it's the same data, right? Yeah, so it's the same data. So going back to over here. So let's do this calculation. If you have your phone calculators or any calculator, let's do this. What will be the increase in population? Yeah, so this is 5,000. Now over here, 17,000. Very good. Over here, 20, yeah, 23,000. Yes. This one, 27,000. Yes, very good. So that's the increase. Now let's see what is the incremental increase. Incremental increase. So that would now be this difference. So what is that? 12,000. Very good. Then this one, 7, 23 minus, yeah, 14,000. Wait, this is, no, 23 minus 70, 6,000. Yeah, 6,000. Then 27, yeah, 4,000. Very good. Yeah, correct. So now we need to find, so over here, let me just go back to the formula. So we need M, which is the arithmetic mean, and then we need K, which is the incremental increase. So which is again the incremental mean, right? So I'm going back to the other slide because I don't have enough space over here. I'm just going back here. So to find the arithmetic mean M, we can average this out, M. So we know how many, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So for 4 years, it's there. So what does the sum work out to? It's, yeah, very good. So it is 72,000 divided by 4, which is 18,000. Yes, correctly put, 18,000. Now, what is the incremental increase over here? It is 22,000 divided by, so 3 incremental increases are there, divided by 3, which is correct. Yeah. So it's around 7,300, 3.33 it will go. So let's take 7, yeah, correct. 7,333. So now, okay, now I'll go back to the page itself. Let me put this over here. So the question is asking, what is the population projection for 2031? So there are two ways to do this. Because we have P0, we can take the initial population either as 2011. If you're taking 2011 as the initial population, then your T, which should be calculated as 2031 minus 2011. And this T is again in decades. It's so it's for every 10 years it's counted. If you take the other method is you can take 1971 as the initial population, and then you can do the projection by taking the difference 2031 minus 1971. Both methods would, there might be some differences, but both methods are usually practiced while doing this. So here for this calculation, I'm just taking this 1971 as the data. So let's say I want to find P 2031. So if 2031, so from 1971, how many decades are there to reach 2031? 60 years. Yes, 60 years. So which means 6 decades are there. Yes, it's two if you're taking 2011, but here I'm saying that I'm putting the reference point as 1971, which is the initial data that we have. So you can do the other way also. You can take this, but you just have to adjust T. Right, so 60 years, so 6 decades over here. So T is 6. So P0, 60,000 I'm taking because it is 1971's data. T is 6 into M, which is 18,000, right? Arithmetic mean, which we got, yeah, 18,000 plus T, which is again 6 into 6 plus 1 divided by 2 into K, which was our 7333.3. So can we do this calculation? Yes. Yes. Tell me after doing the calculation what answer you're getting. Yes. Anybody with the final answer? 321993. 321993. Yes. Yes, approximately 321993. It depends on how much you've taken this. It might vary. This, the last digit might vary. Yes. So we can approximate this as correct. 322000. Yeah, correct. Option C is the closest answer that we have. Very good. So I hope this problem is also clear to everybody. Thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, amazing. So that's it for the questions which I wanted to discuss with you today. So to clear one doubt which was asked in the last class, I think is sir around if the okay the I don't see the person who asked the doubt, but anyway, just to clear it over here. So there was a doubt which was asked regarding what was that? Yeah. So the levy or the charges imposed on project beneficiaries. The options of that question was that you have capital levy, betterment levy, and service levy. So the question was on what can we have good examples about yeah, betterment. So betterment is mainly when because of a facility, a region as such is getting the benefits out of it. A very good example is land pulling or increase in land prices because of a service which has come up over there. For instance, you have a road or you have a well connected road to that region. You have metro rail next to the region. So because of that, all the land price in that region suddenly starts to shoot up because of a facility which has come up. So it's the people who are living around that region who suddenly getting that benefit out of it. So they are the project beneficiaries over there. And as a result, uh, because their value or something is increasing, a tax is imposed on these people. And this sometimes it's not uniformly collected as to okay, now a facility has come, so from next month onwards you need to pay extra money. So sometimes it's not collected that way. It's collected in so there are that depends upon the corporation or municipality on how to impose it. So usually a trend of how to impose is when people are trying to sell the land, then an additional tax is imposed on that because this is a region where this land belongs to. So an additional levy is imposed on that. So those are the betterment charges which are imposed on people. Another, so the question asked was that is a toll service, a toll a betterment charge? A toll is not a betterment charge. Toll is always considered to be a service charge because you're paying for the service after using the service when you're directly using it. But a betterment charge is because of some allied developments, that entire region, or you're getting an additional benefit because of some allied developments which are there. So I hope that's clear now. Since this is being recorded, I hope the person who asked the doubt will also be able to see this. Right. So yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. So land pooling is an example. So when there's land pooling, you have a extra charge which is imposed on those people living around that region. So no, it's not collected from everybody uniformly. It is collected only from project beneficiaries. So that was our question also. It's given to a certain set of people or certain region. So you would demarcate it. All the regions around 20, 10 kilometers from this facility would belong to a charge would be imposed because they're directly benefiting out of this. Right. Okay, fine. So that's done. Now, I guess two people were asking few doubts before and they were saying they're a bit confused. So if you want to ask that now, you can ask. Is there any doubt? Was the confusion clear while we were discussing other questions? Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I will look up myself and get back. Yeah, okay. So you can actually, I didn't understand what your confusion was. You can discuss it in the next class also if you're still not understood. Right. Okay, so if that's the case, then we can call it a day. It's been a long 2 hours. We've been continuously discussing because this I am looking for actual cases where these have happened. Yeah, so what are those these? Where are you talking about 0 to 50? Is that the these where every value is lying between something? 0 to 50 and every value is lying between. Okay, that's too specific for me to find an example of where 0 to 50. One example I can give is this level of satisfaction on how satisfied are you with the facility, and then people might respond from 0 to 100, uh, 50% satisfied, 60% satisfied, 70% satisfied. In that we can. Right. Fine. Okay. So that's all then. Thank you all for joining. So see you all next week, same timing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So somebody has asked, I had a doubt and I've posted in the portal. I have another exam on the same day as this subject, 27th April. What okay, yeah. So yes. So I think a notification came today or yesterday, I'm not sure, saying that if you have two exams, then in the same center, you will be allowed to take both the exams. It's there in the course announcements. You can go and check over there. They have put it out. NPTEL has put a full timeline showing a lot of instructions, and in that a highlight is this, that if you're taking more than one exam, then you can write it in the same center back to back. You don't have to go multiple times. So I think that's sorted by NPTEL will take care of that. They won't let you out confused, don't worry. Right. Right. Okay, so fine, bye bye everybody. Thank you all for joining. See you next week.